I'm Bill Rogers with the Rogers Shooting School. For the past several years, I've worked on a cleaning system, a chemical cleaning system, and we work closely with one of the largest chemical companies in the United States. It's a Radiator Specialty Company, as well as developing some proprietary items that we can use to clean with. We're going to talk about using the two in conjunction, and this is our chemical kit. And the chemical kit comes with 4 chemicals. The chemicals start off as the bore cleaning compound, which is used to primarily clean the bore, and then we have an action cleaning gel that's used to clean just about everything else the weapon would need clean. And then we have this rinse agent, which neutralizes water and also provides some lubrication and corrosion resistance. It is mixed, it's a concentrate, and it's a 5-to-1 mixture, so we put 1 unit per of the compound, and then we add 5 units of water to get the proper mix. And then the final one is our premium lubricant, which is the premier lubricant for corrosion resistance and also for lubrication. The kit comes with a little spray nozzle, and all you have to do is find yourself like a Coke bottle or a Sprite bottle or a Pepsi bottle, and the directions show you exactly where to measure on these bottles to fill it up. If you'll notice, this is kind of a milky color. That's because it was mixed with water that has chlorine, which is the standard tap water you find in most cities. But if you were to mix it with distilled water, you would find that it's just has almost a clear with just a slight tint of yellow, just a very slight tint. One of the things that you can do that we do at the range, we actually mix it with alcohol, and I use the 91% alcohol. And the only reason I do that is because we're operating out in the field, basically next to the range, and we're in inclement weather. Sometimes it's raining and damp and so forth, and we want the rinse agent to dry quickly so that we can reassemble the weapon and get back to shooting. And I find that a lot of people prefer that. However, if you're going to work in your house, everything else here is odorless. And so if you're going to work inside your house where it's dry and warm and not an issue, I would highly recommend just to use the water mix, and therefore your kitchen doesn't smell like a hospital when you're finished. We're going to talk about briefly that this is the cleaning kit that we have, and it comes into this unit right now with directions. It is a very complete kit, and it has a lot of proprietary items that we're going to go over here in a minute. But it comes with a complete kit of brushes, nylon brushes, bronze brushes, and specialty cables and specialty items to help clean a number of popular firearms. And of course, the main part of the kit is what we call the Squeeg-E system. And we use the Squeeg-E system in lieu of patches. It works significantly better, and it's easier to clean, and there's no waste. It's a much better way to clean your firearm. And so now we're going to go over the process of using these chemicals and these parts to actually clean a firearm. Okay, I'm going to start using one of the most popular pistols around is a Glock, and this has been used at our school, and it's pretty filthy at this point right here. And I firmly believe that just about every time you clean these weapons, you should strip them down, at least the upper, the slide mechanism. You should remove it down to its basic parts and try to clean it. And so with the Glock system and some of the other pistols, the striker area has a plastic collar, and if you can push down the collar with a tool, you can take the end cap off. And then you can remove the striker, you can remove the extractor follower, which looks pretty filthy. Then you want to take the extractor out, and it's something that we really need to clean well. And then be real careful right here, because this is the firing pin safety block, and it has a very small spring that's attached to it. So I usually take the spring off and set it aside separately, otherwise I might knock it loose and lose it. So once you've got to this part, now we're going to actually start cleaning the system. Now, one of the things that I need to talk about is that as far as proprietary parts that we make, we use a special polished 304 stainless to make our cables with brass pulls. The important thing about the 304 stainless is it's actually a couple of points softer than the brass is. And so for that reason, this is what we prefer. If you find a cable that's coated with plastic, that's usually a real problem. It's usually because they're using a hardened steel and they're trying to protect the weapon from some situation for scratching it. But unfortunately, the problem with any of the plastics is they absorb dirt, they absorb oil, they crack, they split, and what's worse is they actually take and get embedded into them grit and shards of material that comes out of the gun, which is much, much harder than anything we're using, and that tends to be very abrasive to the weapon. So you'll find that almost all the bench rest shooters will not allow you to push a plastic rod through their gun. The second thing is very important is that you need to have a swivel. We put swivels on either end. And it's not so much necessary for the brushing action, but it is extremely important for the final action, which is the squeegee. And you have to understand that the squeegee has got to follow the lands and grooves as they twist, otherwise they would pass over and miss much of that cleaning. So if you run into a situation where you have a cable that doesn't have a swivel on it, you've wasted your money. Again, the small cable is for pistols, and then we have a carbon length cable that has a connector on it so that you can connect the two together if you have a long barreled rifle or shotgun. So these are proprietary, they're easy to clean. Like I said, we firmly believe in not plastic coating them. They don't pick up debris, they're easy to clean, they don't corrode. Now, if we look at some of the other things, we have the standard set of bronze brushes. And we highly recommend that any time that you're cleaning a firearm that has a molly bullet that's been shot through it or a lead bullet, that we actually need the aggressive nature of the bronze brushes. But if we're cleaning guns that are primarily have shot copper bullets or copper jacketed bullets, then I highly recommend to use the nylon brushes. There's some advantages in the nylon. First of all, you can completely collapse a nylon brush and it bounces back almost 100%, where if you do that with bronze, they tend to fold over. You can actually take a nylon brush and go forward and aft with it. If you do that with any of the bronze brushes, you've weakened the bristles because the metal can't take that continuing flex like the nylon. And finally is the two chemicals that we use, the bore cleaning compound and also the final compound that we talk about, which is our cleaning gel. Both of these have the ability to attack copper. Now, the bore cleaning compound has the greatest copper attacking a chemical in it. And unfortunately, it attacks the bronze brushes. So if you're using our compounds and you're using a bronze brush, what you need to do is immediately after you use them, you need to wash them and rinse them off. Otherwise, the chemical will continue to attack, and it turns them blue and green and they just fall apart. The nylon brushes, we don't have that issue. They're not affected by those chemicals. So there's a couple other proprietary brushes. We're going to use this brush that we had designed for us, and by the way, these are all made in the United States. This has a very stiff bristle, and it's unlike a toothbrush that you can't get into the long parts. We can actually get into the trigger mechanism and so forth with this very stiff bristle brush. And this brush is designed strictly to primarily clean the firing pin area or the striker area in almost all the modern firearms. So again, we'll have a chance to show you that in a minute. And this is a proprietary brush that we use to clean the M4, the gas system, and the bolt carrier system. It screws to our handle. And this is our little pull handle that we actually use to pull the cables through. So it sits like this and it gives you something to pull. We primarily use it when we're working with rifles, but it is sometimes handy to use with handguns. This is another brush that's extremely important. All of our brushes fit into the handle of our pull handle here. And this brush, we call it a tomahawk brush. It's a very rigid stainless steel brush, and we use it to clean the bolt face on rifles and pistols and behind the extractor on weapons that we can't get the extractor out, and also for weapons we can get the extractor out. It breaks down carbon very quickly and polishes things, and so it's a very specialized little tool that we use. We have a small pick that we use to pick out certain items, but primarily we use it to turn the gas rings on the M4 system so that they're situated equally apart. We also have a special brush, and it's marked with red. It's a nylon brush that we use to clean 22s or 5.56 rifles. And it's important that you understand that you can't pull through most of these brushes if they're slightly oversized. They will go into the chamber mechanism, but as soon as they hit the bore, they will jam up. This is the brush that's marked with red, and it's the only brush that we allow you, a nylon brush that we allow you to go ahead and pull through the weapon, through a rifle system. It's always important to test either the squeegee system or the brushes. If you're concerned about whether or not you're going to jam them up in the bore, you should always take and test them just slightly through the muzzle end and simply line them up and see if it looks like that they're going to fit through. If they're not, if you can't push them part of the way through the muzzle, don't take and bring them through the chamber area, because you can actually wedge them inside of your bore. This is the final product that I'd like to talk about. It's using, and we'll demonstrate in a minute, to clean the bolt tail of an M4 rifle. And it's made with a high glass content. It's injection molded with a high glass content. And the more you use it, you wear away or braid away a little bit of the plastic, and more of the glass is exposed. And it's used to do a great job of cleaning the carbon that builds up on your bolt tail. In a minute, we're going to do a cleaning of this bolt tail. And I'm going to set, and it also has a connector here, and you can take and put the connector into a portable drill and use it. So these are the specialty items that we have, but we're going to go through a process now of cleaning. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the barrel, and we're going to take our bore cleaning compound right here. Now, there's only two chemicals that we have here that has an agitator. One of them is the premium lubricant, and the other one is our bore cleaning compound. And it has a slight abrasive in there that helps us break down lead, copper, carbon, as well as the chemical that chemically attacks copper. But you should shake it up until the little agitator is loose. And then you're going to take, we also, I didn't speak about this, but we have a brass rod that we use as a connector, and we connect it onto our handle, and it allows us to efficiently, quickly clean the pistol barrels and chambers, as well as cleaning the back area of the M4 rifle. So we go in from the rear of the M4 rifle, and we use an oversized brush, and we clean the locking lugs out, and we clean the whole bolt assembly area, or bolt area where the bolt tracks in there. And we can actually, because it's nylon, we can force it and into the chamber, so we can clean the chamber and we can clean the locking lugs with this using the brass rod. So I'm going to take the brass rod here, and I've got it set up with a fairly oversized brush. I'm going to take and change the brush out to a medium-sized brush. We want extra compression. We don't want something that's the same bore diameter as you would with a bronze brush, because we can compress the nylon. And I'm going to take this now, and I'm just going to squirt a little bit. And if you notice the color of this product, it's a honey colored. It's kind of light tan with a little bit of a honey, and it's thick enough so that when you run a brush through it, it doesn't spray all over the world. So I'm going to go in from the chamber area, and the first thing I'm doing is I'm going to push it and I'm going to turn it. And the reason I'm turning it is I'm trying to work that compound into the brush. Otherwise, if I push it through, it just pushes it out. Now our compound that we're using here is thick enough so that if you notice, if I push it out through the end, it doesn't spray all over me. So it allows us to take and do a pretty good job. Now, I squirted about 4 or 5 little beads in there. I'm going to put about another little bit in here and do it one more time. Now, the good thing about this is time helps us break down the carbon. So I'm just going to leave this in here for a minute. I'm going to actually take and rub where the ramp area is. And this is a brand new brush, and if you notice right now, if you put it on, you can see my hands are going to get really filthy and dirty, and in a minute we'll actually get a little bit more off the gun. So I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to take now the slide area, and we're going to use the next compound, which is what we call our action gel. So now that I've taken the gun apart, I'm just going to take and put some of this action gel right inside here. I'm going to take the little brush that we talked about that's so useful. It's this little brush right here, and I'm going to, it's got a stiff brush and allows me to get all inside of the slide area. And again, just letting it sit for a couple of minutes will actually help break it loose. Now normally if you're going to clean several guns, I'd highly recommend putting on a pair of nitrile gloves. This chemical is no more caustic than what you would find in your kitchen dishwasher, but again, it dries out the oil in your skin, and it's probably, and also you probably don't want to get all this carbon and stuff that's going to be coming off. Now, one of the areas that you want to really pay a close attention to is where your extractor channel is. So you want to make sure that you get in that. And then the other area that we talked about earlier that we use the little tomahawk brush is the bolt face. And so the bolt face has a lot of high pressure carbon gases coming off of it, and so I've got a little bit of compound in there. I'll just take that tomahawk brush and I'll go in there right on that bolt face, and it does just a super job of breaking out anything. It also will fit right inside if you're trying to clean the channel where your extractor is. So once I've got that done, you have to understand too that what's important is to clean the striker area. Well, with Glock and some of the other pistols out there, there's a plastic collar that's inside. So don't run a bronze brush in there, because if you do, number one, you'll burr the plastic, and number two, normally when you pull out your bronze brush, you'll pull out that plastic channel with you. You don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit more of our action gel. It's clear, it's clean, it has no abrasive compound, it's only chemical. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to turn it real good, and I'm going to clean the striker area. The primary reason I'm doing that is to make sure that I clean the area right where the firing pin safety block is. Now, this brush will fit in there and clean that as well. And these are the areas that is really necessary for you to clean well, is the firing pin safety area and the striker area. So now I've got the compound, and I can just set this down. I'm going to take and wipe off my hands a little bit. And you can see they're getting pretty dirty at this point. But what we're going to do now is how we clean the other parts. And I find that the easiest thing to do is, if you've got a Leatherman or a small pair of pliers, that if you pick up the extractor, there's the back side of the extractor that you can simply hold. It's not an area that causes any concerns. And you want to take and use that same compound that we did, and you want to put a little bit right on that extractor. And then you want to take the tomahawk brush and you want to go in, and while you've got that, do that one more time, while you've got it held, right like so, you can take and come right in with your brush and you can clean that extractor area. It's really hard to hold it with your fingers and clean it, and secondly, if you're holding it with your fingers and cleaning it, you wind up by hitting your fingers with a stainless steel brush, and that's not what we want to do. So I can really get in here and do a pretty good job of knocking that carbon off right around the extractor. So I'm going to do the same thing with the frying pan safety block. And again, if you don't have to put a lot of pressure, just hold it, and you want to take and clean all the way around that little firing pin safety, and it needs to be totally clean and void of any carbon. Don't grip it hard. We don't want to leave any marks on it, although it is fairly hardened metal. But you just want to just take and good and clean, and make sure that it's in position, and again set it to the side. The striker, typically I can just take and use this brush. It still has some compound on it, and I just take and brush it lightly on that. The other part we've already gone over it. Now with the inside of the frame, again, we'll use the gel, and we'll simply just take and make like a little well. We'll just put some right down there, and again, this is the brush that really works the best. It's very rigid. It's stiffer than a toothbrush, but it's nylon, and it doesn't pull loose and break off. And so I want to get in there and I want to clean all around the trigger mechanism, and I also want to clean the whole locking mechanism where the barrel locks up and the rails and connectors. Now, there's obviously an area in here that is affected by the magazine latch, and what I recommend is to use the largest brush that we have. So if you take the largest brush, which I had on here originally, and again, by the way, this is just water. Just have some water, and it's easy if you're working in your kitchen. You could just have a little pail like this to work, and then all you have to do is turn on the water to rinse it off. But if you come in through the magazine well and angle the brush toward the trigger mechanism, you get the magazine latch area clean, and also if you lift up the slide stop area, you can get clean underneath this. And it also cleans the feed ramp area in this area for the weapon. It does a good job of cleaning that. So once you've got that, now we're at the point where we're going to take and do a final action on the barrel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a little bit more compound in here, just a little extra, and then we're going to go with the brush that we had originally, which is right here. And you're going to run the brush through one final time, and then we're going to take and pull the squeegee through. And this is a 9mm squeegee. They're marked on the side, but if you have any questions, make sure you go through the muzzle side and see that yes, this will actually start. Now, all of our pistol squeegees have the first baffle that you would pull through is the same diameter, or actually it's oversized diameter for the chamber. So it's going to clean the chamber, and then the other baffles will clean the bore. So I'm going to push this in here. And normally I can pull it through by hand, with the, but you could use the pull handle. When I pull this through, if you get a close look here, what's happening is that black material that you've got out here on the squeegee, that is our carbon buildup. And what you want to do is look inside, and it should absolutely be like a perfect mirror, which this one is. It's absolutely clear. However, if you look in there and you see any kind of striations or any deformity or discoloration, then you haven't removed everything and you need to do the process one more time. Now, once you've got this done, I actually use the brushes to try to clean things up. But what you would really necessarily like to have is just a little bit of detergent soap. And so what I do is just use regular detergent that you find. And if you take one of the units that comes with the kit that holds the brushes, if you just simply take and put a small amount, and don't go crazy, just a little bit of drop of soap in there. And then you can take and use your brushes to clean everything out. So what I just finished doing, I can take now, and with a little bit of soap, I can go right in this area and I can run it through the barrel and the outside of the barrel, because I do have some buildup in carbon there, and I do have some of my compound. Now, we've already cleaned the bore, and it's not a problem, but I'm just going to take now and put it in water just and rinse it. And you can, in a minute, you'll see all the stuff that just came off of this thing. And so we can just take and set the barrel over here for the time being. You just want to shake off the extra water, set it down. We're going to do the same thing now with this. And again, I'm going to use my little soap, and I'm going to use the proprietary brush we have, and I'm going to go into the frying pan striker area. I'm going to clean that with the soap, and I'm going to go in now on the outside, or I'm sorry, the outside surface on the inside of the weapon. And also, you want to clean the sight. Now, all the chemicals that I'm using here will not attack the plastic sights. In fact, it's very friendly to all plastic. So you want to clean, in my weapons we use fiber optics, so it's important that you clean the fiber optics to keep them bright. If you use a lot of other people's chemicals, it will just attack that and break it down. So now, the last thing I want to do is put a little more soap on this, and I want to go into the frying pan area and clean it real good, and the bolt face. And then again, if you've got hot water that you can rinse it in, just rinse it with hot water. So now we've knocked off all of this, and again, just shake the excess water off. You don't have to get all the water off, because the final compound that we'll use does a great job of actually using the water and making it into a lubricant and a preservative. Same thing here is that if you remember, we used the larger brush. So I'm going to take and I'm going to put the larger brush back on. And again, just assemble a little soap and come inside and scrub just the area that I went on before. Make sure that's good and clean. And I can put it in the water, do the same thing. Now we're knocking loose particles of stuff all in here. And then again, you can use the same little brush to go inside the action that we cleaned before and into the trigger mechanism. And again, I'm just going to set that aside.
And the final things that we did is we cleaned the little firing pin safety block, and usually all I have to do is hit it with a brush. Don't have to worry about soap. There's probably enough in the water now to do that. We're going to do the striker, and again, you might get a little soap on that just to break loose anything. You'll clean the striker, set it aside. This is the extractor, and again, the extractor, because you use the little stainless brush with the compound, it's usually pretty clean at this point. But do an inspection. Make sure you have no carbon buildup or any on that, and that's knocked that off totally clean. This is the little follower, the extractor follower. Again, be careful not to take and knock the plastic end or the spring off of it. You just want to take and set that aside. The recoil springs, usually the recoil springs just take a little soap. You don't have to put anything else on them. And so you could just take and put some soap on them and clean them and rinse them. You're in pretty good shape there. And that gets us down to the final thing, is what's this little firing pin safety spring. I'm just going to leave it here so don't miss it. The end cap, a lot of times it's real good to just take and clean that little end cap because it'll build up material. Okay, so now we're at the point where we're going to do our final rinse. And our final rinse, again, I said before, is that if you're working outside in the field, I would use the alcohol. If you're working inside your kitchen and so forth, I would use this just plain water. If you use distilled water, it'll come out almost clear like the alcohol. If you use tap water that has a little bit of chlorine, it'll have this milky color, but it does not affect it at all. All of it works the same. And so now all we're going to do is just spray it. And we don't have to use a lot. I hardly use maybe a third of an ounce to do this, but you want to get it inside. Everything that you touched it with water, you want to take and put this compound on it. Now what this does is it can mix all the way to like a 20-to-1 with water and still be corrosion resistant. So it's taking any of the water that's still left in there and it's combining it and making a corrosion resistant, and also providing us just a little bit of lubrication. Now the thing is that I don't like to take and lubricate with oil inside of the striker area, because what happens when the oil dries out, or in many cases it collects dust and so forth and then dries out, then you have a real problem. You have a malfunction, and most of the pistol companies don't recommend that you put any kind of oil in it. This is not an oil, it's water-based, and so it dries in such a super thin film. It actually goes into the pores of the metal and dries so well that it does not affect that, and it does offer corrosion resistance and a slight amount of lubricity. You can actually put the weapons back together wet, but typically what I do is kind of shake them off and let them dry for a little while before I reassemble them. If you're going to take and use other people's premium lubricant type of product, if they're petroleum based, you want to take and let this dry completely, because most petroleum-based oils do not mix well with water-based products. Now, our premium lubricant, this design that comes with this chemical kit, does mix. However, I don't like to take and dilute the lubricant. It will mix with the final rinse agent, and as it dries out, it does not become gummy and cause a problem. However, like I say, I only want to take and lubricate certain parts of this gun, and in doing so, I don't want to have to take and dilute it. So what I do is I simply take and let the guns dry for a minute, and usually inside of a house it takes about 5 minutes to totally dry. But to make things go quicker here for the video, I'm actually going to go ahead and quickly put the gun back together again. And again, you want to take and reassemble kind of in the order that you took it apart. So we're going to take and put the little striker block and spring, and we're going to put it back in its channel. And always when you reassemble it, you want to take and operate and make sure that it operates smoothly, that you don't have anything that's rubbing or causing a problem. This is a very important safety part of your weapon, and it's incredibly important to keep this in clean operation as a safety feature. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and install, in this case, the extractor, because that's the order we took it apart, and just put the extractor in a location. And now you can put the extractor follower, metal against metal, and the plastic cap against the plastic cap. And then we're going to take and install the striker and make sure that when you push the striker in, everything is smooth and operates there. And then finally we're going to take and line up the end cap and depress the plunger, the striker plunger, to get the cap started, and then we're going to have to take and depress the follower plunger slightly to get the end cap in. And when it finally goes in, make sure when you push it in, you hear it click. It has to click in place to make sure you've got it in the proper position. So now we have, in this situation, we already have this gun perfectly clean, and there's no way to get this thing cleaner unless you're using a cleaning tank that has a filter, because we've washed all the junk and dirt, and that's all inside of this pan right now, or down the sink if you're washing in your kitchen. And so then we're going to go ahead and reassemble the barrel. Now, this is the point where I usually take and use the premium lubricant. And again, it's another product that we need you to shake an agitator, because it has other things in it. It has a Teflon compound, and it has another compound in there that gives us a high pressure lubrication as well as the corrosion resistance. So give it a good shake until it works really loose. And then there's only a couple areas I really am concerned about it. There's always a witness mark on your barrel, and so I always take and put just one small drop there, and then just take and rub it around so that you've got a small drop on it. And then what you want to do is the rail system that you got, if you want to take and just put a small drop, not to excess, because you don't want to build up a lot of trash there. And then I always take and put one drop right here, right behind in the trigger mechanism, so that you have a smooth operation on the trigger. And if you want to, on the back of the sear, you can take it, which gets on the striker, put one little drop. Do not over lubricate these things. It is not helpful whatsoever. It just simply causes them to much quicker get dirty. And so with just that small amount of lubrication, I can take and reassemble the pistol. And now we have a weapon that's totally clean. I could set it aside just like this if I don't have to worry about storing. In fact, if I was going to carry or shoot the gun, I'd just go out and shoot it. However, if I was going to store the weapon for a long period of time, what I would do is on the outside surface, I'd put a drop of our special lubricant, and I would simply just wipe it over, because it's going to take care of any of the fingerprints or anything that came off your fingers or hands, and you can put it on, and now you could store the weapon for a long period of time. A lot of times I'll actually take and put a little around the sight, because we tend to grab the sight area in many occasions, and it keeps it from corrosion. But if I were going to go back out on the range and shoot it, knowing that I'm going to shoot it for the next 3 or 4 days and then have to clean it, wouldn't have to worry about doing that. But this is the final action using all of the compounds that we see here. And again, if you have any questions, you can contact us by email, but we find that this is a product that you can use inside your house. It's green friendly, it's not caustic, it doesn't have odors in the house, and it's the best way you can possibly clean your firearm. Okay, after showing you how to clean a handgun, we would clean a rifle in a similar manner. The first thing we do is we'd pull through the bore in the chamber area with our special bore cleaning compound and let it sit for a little while. We'd follow with the action gel to clean the inside of the receiver area where the bolt would operate, and also the trigger assembly. We'd use the same thing, and we'd use almost the similar brushes. But one of the specialty items that we manufacture is for cleaning the bolt tail. Now, without spending a whole lot of time, we have a little proprietary brush that fits into the firing pin channel area, so that you can rub and clean that. Also, any of the gas ports in the rifle you could do. But now, the most difficult part we find in cleaning the gas impingement guns is this area right here that has a huge amount of carbon buildup. And you can see right now this darn thing is black with carbon buildup. And so what we're going to do is we're going to clean it. Now, you can by hand. And again, we're going to use our bore cleaning compound because it's got a little bit of abrasive, and this is not a fine action like a trigger assembly, so it's not a problem, and it helps us. So what you're going to do is you're going to take and put some right on the area that we need, which is the shaft area and that face. And also what I do is just put a drop or two inside of this, so that as I'm turning, it'll run down on this. Now, you can do it by hand, and out in the field what you do is put this on place and you twist and turn it. But we also make a connector, and so the way the connector would work is you simply take and put it in a portable drill, and it connects up, and now you can do it, and I reverse it and run it back, and so now if you see this, I'm going to take and just wipe it, and you can see where the carbon is breaking down on this thing, and it's broken it off. It also, if you see the inside of this, it started clean, and now it's totally black. And that was just a few seconds. And what is going to happen here, I'm going to clean this thing out with a little bit of soap and water that I had, and just use a brush and get the compound off of it. And what you'll see, if we get real close with the camera, you can see that we have cleaned this whole thing off now, and it has a perfectly polished face that we've taken off in just a few seconds of using the compound and our special item. Now what I do is I take again and take that little unit, and we want to get all the carbon off it, and I just use the brush and a little bit of soap and water. What's neat about this part is that the more you use it, the better off it gets, because it has more glass exposed. And so eventually it actually does even a better job. But you certainly would want to use a little bit of our bore cleaning compound. And again, like I say, you wind up with a finished bolt. Now you can now clean the bolt face and the locking lug area with another brush. But this is the area that has the real high buildup with carbon and so forth. And as a final action, I would use the little bronze brush that we offered to clean the firing pin area out, just to make sure that we don't have any compound in that. And again, you would finish off with your spray. You would just simply take and spray it and set it aside, and make sure, if you want to use your little pick that comes with this, you'll go in here and you'll actually take and rotate, and you want to make sure that the gas opening, the ring openings, are spaced equally apart to give you a better seal. So that's what these parts are all used for, and that's how we clean the bolt face.